This is Vic Patel with Craft Express.
My name is Ashley from Artistry.
It's Gavin, founder, creator of Steps.io, and you're listening to
Two Regular Guys podcast,
Hosted by
Terry Combs RG, Regular Guy,
and Aaron Montgomery.
The place to be for industry news.
The best dad jokes on earth, along with relevant topics to apparel decorators.
Prepare for the wild.
All right, welcome to the show. It is Friday, November 17th, 2023. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me at oursuccessgroup.com. And my mission is to inspire you to fall in love with your business. And today, I think we're going to keep doing that, Terry. That's what I love about doing Two Regular Guys. It helps provide to my mission there. But we've got Wayne Morgan from PressXchange joining us, and he's going to talk to us about, and I think talk to us is maybe not exactly right in this form. I think this is going to be really engaging. So we're counting on you guys, the regulators, people tuning in to be part of this discussion. But we want to talk about what sustainability beyond the t-shirt means and what that's all about. So we met Wayne at Printing United, and he's not specifically inside of our garment world that we like to play in, but he serves kind of the larger printing world, and I think he's got some interesting concepts that as decorators, as garment decorators, we might be able to latch onto a little bit more. So
I think that conversation spanned about 3 hours at Printing United. So
yeah, 3 hours, several bottles of wine, maybe a couple of beers and a cocktail.
Maybe a couple of beers at the pub.
All the good conversations start that way.
Right, exactly. The birth of Two Regular Guys. So
that's right.
All right.
That's right.
Well, make sure you stay until the very end and get your helping of the secret sauce. Eric has something on the stove for us to help you determine the value of your year-end business purchases and avoid shiny object syndrome. Hope Eric isn't planning on talking anybody out of buying a machine for me by the end of the year, but
maybe if it's a shiny object.
I know it is a shiny object.
Well, that's fun. Eric's going to have a great segment there, and I'm looking forward to it. I could definitely use any perspective I can get on avoiding shiny object syndrome. As you guys know, I love to chase those squirrels around, and so looking forward to that. But we do have the news coming to you this week, again from Cassie Green at the Apparelist. So we got plenty to talk to Wayne about. Terry, why don't we just dive right into the news here?
Let's do.
Good morning, regulators. So happy to once again be bringing you this week's industry news. First up on the list is Hanesbrands receives insurance compensation following 2022 ransomware attack. Hanesbrands Inc. reports that it has received at least $20.5 million in insurance compensation in 2023 for the 2022 ransomware attack that it experienced, which cost Hanesbrands around $100 million in global sales. This is all according to a recent article shared by the Winston-Salem Journal. Hanesbrands announced in a regulatory filing that it began experiencing the ransomware attack on May 24th, 2022. Now, recently, the apparel manufacturer disclosed the insurance payments in its third quarter regulatory filing that represents compensation for lost profits. Hanesbrands said in the article that the ransomware attack affected its global supply chain network and ability to fulfill customer orders for about 3 weeks. The attack resulted in a $35 million reduction in adjusted operating profit for the second quarter of fiscal 2022, while lowering adjusted earnings per share by 8 cents. So very interesting to see how that's all shaking out. Second headline I have for everybody today. New Vice President of Sourcing and Product Development at Sanmar draws on decades of global experience. So Sanmar Corporation announces that Dean Drawn has joined the team as Vice President of Sourcing and Product Development. Drawn, who brings more than 30 years of end-to-end global experience spanning the entire product lifestyle from design to distribution, assumed the role effective October 16th, 2023. Drawn brings a seasoned logistics perspective to Sanmar's executive team. The company said this in a press release that it released. During his 33-year career, he has developed expertise in leading teams responsible for supply chain management, operations, development, manufacturing, compliance, and quality. He is a member of the Cotton Board, an administrative arm of the Cotton Research and Promotion Programs that serves as a key liaison to the United States Department of Agriculture. So some really big global experience coming to Sanmar. Final headline I have for all of you this morning. Stalls announces Q3 Stall Family Scholarship winners now accepting Q4 applications. So Stalls announces the third quarter winners of its Dream Shop Package giveaway, part of the Stall Family Scholarship Program. Throughout 2023, winners have been selected each quarter in 2 different categories this year, one in small business and one in school. So winners for the third quarter are Arizona Autism Charter Schools in the school winner category and Delay Apparel in the small business winner category. The exclusive Dream Shop package is valued at over $5,500. Arizona Autism Charter Schools, or AZACS, is the first and only tuition-free public charter school serving students on the autism spectrum in the Southwest. With the Stall Family Scholarship, it aims to amplify the opportunities that it provides its students, enabling student-run businesses to flourish, fostering essential skills like business planning, budgeting, and inventory management. On the other side, Late Apparel, which is a Savannah, Georgia-based business with a vision to create a vibrant community around garment decoration, they said that they are really excited to continue growing their community by being able to teach multiple people at the same time. So big congratulations to those 2 winners. Stalls also said that it is currently accepting applications for its Q4 scholarship. They're taking those through December 15th. So if you're interested, I suggest getting right on it. That's everything I have for you guys this week. Back to you.
Well,
Awesome.
Cassie always brings us a I didn't know that news item or two. So
Yeah, really good stuff. And cool to hear about all the Stalls Family Scholarship winners and whatnot. I get to be part of that committee that goes through that list, and it's a hard there's a lot of good stuff happening out there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's say hello to some folks that are tuned in early here this morning, and make sure that you guys are getting the word out there. Start spreading the word. Make sure we get more live viewers in here. But Ramona early on said, just imagine this time next year, which whole 12 months from now, right? You'll be saying 2024. We're only a couple less than a month or so away from saying 2024. So little more than a month, I guess. I'm shooting ahead too quickly, but
you're taking out the week that we don't have, the 2 weeks that we don't have the show for
That's
holidays.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, and then 3 weeks really. So, cause we're not going to be on next week either. So,
right.
So we're 4 shows away from 2024 here.
I'm assuming that's how the regulators keep track of their days and weeks. According to
how many more
what show the 2 regular guys are doing.
How many more 2 regular guys shows are coming up? All right. And then Amanda checking in from Printing United, and we have Amanda to thank for getting to meet Wayne. So thank you, Amanda.
Exactly right.
That connection, and we're excited about today. Chuck, good morning to you, sir. Appreciate you tuning in here this morning. And like I said, you guys get out there and make sure that you go share this with your communities. Make sure we get some people in here, because I think the best part of our show today is really going to be, the conversation around this. Wayne has even told us that he's got questions for you guys. So
there will be a quiz.
There will be a quiz. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, Terry, holiday themed dad jokes. Anybody up for that?
I'm up for a holiday themed dad joke, without thinking that Wayne pointed out to us that this is an American holiday themed joke today.
Yes. But with Thanksgiving coming up next week, we get to celebrate that a little bit. here we go whenever you're ready, Eric. All right, Terry, what kind of music did the Pilgrims like?
I don't know, Aaron. What kind of music did Pilgrims like?
Plymouth Rock.
See, and Wayne's still like, I don't get that. Okay,
Yeah.
the Pilgrims came from your country and they landed on. Anyway, okay, I have one more international theme. How about this?
Yes,
Skeleton walks into a pub and says, "Give me a beer," and they. Oh, wait a second. I already messed it up. I have to read it. Sorry. The skeleton walks into a pub. The bartender says, "Well, you have." The skeleton says, "Bring me a beer and a mop." It's Halloween. It's a pub. It's
yeah. All right. Well, we met in the middle. Amanda liked
and
the
I
dad
tripped
joke.
right over
Amanda's also a connoisseur of dad jokes. In fact, she's shared a few with us that we've used on the show. So
exactly right.
Speaking of that, if you guys do Terry's been carrying most of the weight. I did come up with this one with the help of my 12-year-old. And but Terry's been carrying most of the weight. If you guys have dad jokes you'd like to submit, please reach out to us, info@tworegularguys.com, or you can find us anywhere. So share those with us. We like sharing your guys' dad jokes too.
We'll read them. You can send us a video. We're happy to have you on telling your dad joke as well.
Yep, absolutely. In fact, where you go and do the intro, if you want to join the intro thing, you can actually just submit your dad joke there too. Good enough place to do that. There you go. And maybe that even gets into the intro. All
right,
thanks,
Aaron, before we dive in, we want to thank everybody for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We need your voices still. We would love to have you as the regulators participate in the show intros. So go to decorators.ink/intro and read a few sentences to be a part of the show. And we've got several in, but we would love to have more, so don't be left out. We are always looking for new guests. So if you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com/2 regular guys to book a future episode, or you can email info@tworegularguys.com with your show ideas. If you are listening to the podcast version of our show, we would appreciate you sharing the Two Regular Guys podcast with all of your industry friends so they can become regulators too. And we would appreciate you giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, wherever you do your podcast listening, we are there. And if you're watching us live right now, please join in with your comments and your questions, and be ready for Wayne's questions for you.
Yeah, indeed. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get Wayne in here. And I'm ready for an exciting. We've already had a lot of fun, even in the 5 minutes before we got started, and this carried over from our great time that we got to have in Atlanta. So I see that continuing here. But welcome into the program, Wayne. Thank you so much for being here. I know it's not morning there, but it's not quite happy hour yet either, is it?
Not well. It's close. And
it's close.
You guys don't keep me from it, huh?
All right. Well, we'll try to keep on task here, but welcome in. We don't do the bio thing. We just found that to be a little too pretentious for what we try to do here, but we'd rather just have you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got kind of into what you're doing now, and maybe the Wayne 101, so to speak.
Okay, fine. Okay. Well, good morning and good afternoon. So I'm the managing director of PressXchange.com. So we are a marketplace for used printing machinery. We are established for 24 years, and it's through PressXchange.com that we have a great relationship with Printing United, and that we are media partners for that show, and we do our utmost to inform our community, which I'll come on to in a moment, about that show and get as many of them as possible to look at all this new wonderful technology. How did I get involved with PressXchange, and who am I? I was a publisher at Print Week magazine in the UK many years ago, maybe 2007, 2008. And on my first day, my boss said to me, "You need to go down into London onto Tower Bridge, if you all know Tower Bridge, the famous landmark, and see if you would like to purchase this organization to be a partner with Print Week magazine." Which I duly did, and I went down to see some fantastic guys, a chap called John Roadknight, who founded it in 2000, on that Friday, where he got me drunk, so we bought the business.
Man, smart guy.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, well, the union was obvious because in the back of the magazine, we have lots and lots of pages from dealers and printers that are selling their printing machinery, because the machinery is so well made, it runs for years. So it has a life after its initial purchase. So there were pages and pages of classified ads for that machinery in the back of Print Week magazine. But over time, that was those pages were becoming fewer as those adverts were moving onto the online marketplace, which was PressXchange.com. And whereas Print Week was predominantly a UK magazine, PressXchange is global. So it made sense for us to acquire that as a fantastic add-on to Print Week magazine. So then I ran it for about 5 years, and then as an employee, I left and went to do something else. And then the guy that I bought it from, who's now my business partner and a dear friend of mine, and in his 70s, decided to buy it back. Why? We all of the clients, why don't you just enjoy your retirement? But it's such a fantastic industry, and I think he was missing it. So he bought it back in about 2016, and then asked me if I would join him and come and run it. So that's where we are today.
Nice. And Wayne, when you talk about printing equipment, we're probably primarily speaking about, printing equipment that would print, paper things. Like the name that always shows up in my brain when I think about stuff that's like that's really well made is Heidelberg, for example.
Heidelberg, yes. So we often refer to it as, the heavy metal, just a nod to your dad joke, which was really good. The heavy metal printing, these huge printing presses, whether they be sheet fed or web fed, and then of course increasingly digital, where the substrate tends to be paper based mainly, and the output tends to be a lot of books, and then we have all the finishing equipment that goes along with that. But and we do run textile ads and garments and things like that, so we do have those machines, but very few compared to the volume of machines that are out there. And when we were at Printing United, and a big part of that show was for this types of equipment, and I asked you guys at dinner, it just begged the question, what happens to this amazing equipment, which I do understand runs for many, many years after the original purchase, that, when they're done with it, what happens to it after that? And I'm curious. As to why it does, or doesn't, maybe it does, get resold and go to different markets. Maybe new businesses that are starting up. And as we'll come on to later in the podcast, it got us thinking about sustainability and recycling, and the components that go into these machines are becoming increasingly difficult to get hold of. Yeah. So there's a conversation around sustainability, and leads on to climate change and things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, so before we jump into sustainability, since we met at the Printing United Media Dinner, where you, by the way, were the self-proclaimed best wine deliverer of all time.
Well, they would refuse to serve you guys, so I stepped up.
Yes. But they knew who we were, and that maybe you, anyhow, that's a whole different story. But
I'm surprised you can remember.
We've been doing this for a lot of years.
Afterwards, when we went to the pub, that might have entered in. But share your thoughts about the expo in Atlanta. What did you like? What did you dislike?
Well, I've been working with these guys for a long time, and I know that Printing United has gradually become a merger of lots of different brands. Not just live events, but also magazines and things like that. And you can see that it's become quite a powerful force. For us, we're an American company based in the UK, because our biggest market is the United States. So nearly we reach every country in the world over the course of the year. And over that point, 18% of all the users will come from the United States. So to go to Printing United and to see such an incredible and very large show, having been to the shows in Chicago and down in Florida, it's both impressive and actually quite comforting for our industry. I went to the show in Vegas last year, and I was impressed with that one, and this one was even bigger. So when I was speaking to Amanda about how we can support the show, from our point of view, whatever we can do to help promote the interests of this industry, we will do. You know, whether we directly or indirectly benefit from it as a media company, we have a community that we need to serve. Right. Day to day, we're helping them find the equipment that they need to service their businesses and their business models. But also we have other things that we can do for that community. And also at the other end, the people that create these machines. You know, don't forget, we're in the graphic arts industry. Often the output from the things that we do, whether it's on textiles or on paper, are beautiful things. And there are people way downstream that are creating this fantastic art, especially in the sector that you guys specialize in. So, you know, I thought the show was incredible. And one half of it was all the traditional stuff that we recognize, the big presses. Yeah. And then in the other half, it was just eye-opening, the size of the garment side of things. And you know, it just got me thinking about it even more than I normally would. And then when I met you guys at dinner and you told me about the podcast and asked you a couple of questions, it just started to feel, well, you know, there's a conversation around it, and to dedicate a whole podcast to it, I think is fantastic. I'm fascinated to see what we get back.
Yeah, we are too, and I think you kind of hit on something as you were sharing there. I mean, that's kind of always been the point of the Two Regular Guys, is just how can we lift up the industry, and then we'll let everything shake out from there. And I think that's why we made such a fast connection, is that there was that similar thought there. And I love when we get to talk to people that aren't, as you know, because we get the blinders on, you know, we see what we're got going on in the garment space, and I don't think I've ever pondered that question that you asked us that night. Like, where does the equipment go? I you know, and I don't have an answer to it. So I am excited about this too. And so I want to start getting into that. You know, we titled the show Sustainability Beyond the Shirt. And, you know, again, I know for us, there's a big push in that, which is great, but it is about the shirt. You know, how many plastic water bottles can I grind up to make a shirt, or how many gallons of water are we not using in making the shirt, which is all fantastic. We need to be focused on that stuff. But I think we want to take it beyond that. So help explain how you take that. What's sustainability beyond the t-shirt mean for you?
So, well, there's two sides to it, isn't there? So firstly, there's the equipment. So what happens to the equipment? Do they run it into the ground? So do your users, or you know, your listeners and viewers that use this equipment, do they run it into the ground? Because that's some of the feedback that we've received. Yeah. But in the last week alone on our platform, 2 auctions have been running for this type of equipment. So that's one side of it. And on the other side of it, there is the sustainability thing, because you're going to potentially scrap something, which I realize a lot of the components in there will be reusable. But what about the machine itself, and how much energy does it require to make a machine? But it got me thinking about consumers and what you were saying about the substrate, the garment itself, and how all the crazy things that you can do to make something that you can wear. Yeah. You know, how sustainable is that? And I know, and I'm sure you'll know a lot more than this than I will, but consumers like that. Yeah. They like to think that the clothes that they're wearing are more sustainable. You know, fast fashion has a positive and a negative connotation to it. You know, the negative being, quite honest, that it seems to be disposable fashion. Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, people really want to. Fashion moves quickly, and I remember when I was younger, everyone wore the same thing. But since with the world getting smaller and communications getting wider with the internet, there's a lot more individuality and things like that around it. And so the sustainability of the garment is one thing. So if some people will purchase a garment because of what it's made from and the benefits of that to the environment, then it led me to say, well, would they also be interested to know that it was printed on a recycled machine, or manufactured on a recycled machine? And would that be a value proposition to the organization that's manufacturing the garment? And then, of course, the retailer. So it's just a question, really, and I have no idea. And it starts with, what happens to these poor machines? And is it like those graveyards for aircraft that look ever so sad in the desert, just aircraft all lined up? Yeah, never look like they're going to get off the ground again. Yeah, or they just scrapped. So we'd be interested to know.
Yeah. Well, I'm here in Arizona with that aircraft graveyard, but you know, it's interesting you say that, because I'd never considered talking about the fact that I might be running equipment that I repurposed from someone else, and I think that's a great selling point. And when I do seminars, when I do classes, I always say, you know, when I started out, I was a screen printer. Today, I have to tell a story. Everybody wants to hear your story to determine whether they want to buy from you or not. And I think, gosh, I kept thinking back to several years ago. I worked for a company. We had those long tables where they're printing fabric, and then cutter would come in and cut it. And we were making boxer shorts that had college logos on them. And when I walked into that company on a consulting basis, I said, there has got to be a better way than to do this. So I found what some listeners will remember was a jumbo oval, and it was a company called Precision in New Jersey. Had a machine that would print 22 inches wide by 30 inches deep. And I found one of those, and I thought, man, how many people owned this before me? Because that machine is still running somewhere, because they were built like tanks.
Yeah.
But I bought it, and we cut up all those tables, and we started printing that fabric on an automatic press, 22 by 30 inches, stacking them up, cutting up boxer shorts. So the whole time you were talking about, you know, what happens to that equipment, I kept thinking about that story, and there's probably a million of them out there. And hopefully, if any of our listeners have purchased used equipment or repurposed equipment, we'd love to hear about that as well. But, you know, Wayne, you talked about when we met sustainability and how in the workflow it might power sales. You also talked about you might have some questions for our regulators. So talk to us about that, and what kind of questions do you have that our regulators might participate in?
Well, my questions are around, is that about reusing such a machine? You know, I mean, I'm interested in your story there, Terry, that you actually used a repurposed machine to increase production.
Exactly.
And profitability. And often there might be an assumption that an older machine, that can't be the case, because the new machines, obviously, they're always trying to make sure that the technologies add value to a business, and often that's got to be around profitability. So, you know, is there a fear in the market that'd be the case? How do manufacturers feel about machines going back onto the market? I mean, I know that these things, like tanks, they run. I met with some of the guys at Stiles, and they were very proud about how long their equipment runs, and I know that that's a quality machine that they produce. But what happens to them? And because another thing, what happens to us in the other heavy metal market is a brand new machine that might start its life in Germany, Heidelberg, for example, at some point in its second, third, or maybe even fourth life, may end up in Africa or Latin America, or over in Asia. It may not be a sustainable machine in Europe or America, in North America any longer. So it makes its life down there. And that's the sort of questions that I have for the audience, really, is what exactly is going on? Because from our point on PressXchange, people own the machines, or they're selling them on behalf of someone else. They advertise the machine. And our job is to make lives easier for the community to identify the equipment that they're looking for, and then go and, like a dating agency, really, like Amanda was with us guys. We're just putting people together under this common conversation. Yeah. So that was my question. And I would love to know, would having on the product, at the point of sale, manufactured with a recycled machine, would that satisfy a need that may or may not exist for consumers? Yeah. It's those sorts of questions, really.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's, and it's such a great thing to think about and start talking about, because, wasn't that many years ago that just saying that you were, doing sustainability, it was kind of like, oh, that's fun. That's cute. That's a neat little thing. And it just, enough people continued to say that and prove why that was important to them, that, okay, I've saved this many bottles from going into the ocean. Right? Like I heard an ad for a water company out of Hawaii, and they make all of their bottles out of old recycled bottles. And that's kind of part of their shtick. And it's like, okay, but you're still making bottles, right? Okay, so we're like, how are we moving this stuff along? And I think the same thing can be said for the equipment. Like, but nobody's been talking about that, at least not in our space. Because yes, I know a lot of people have quote unquote used equipment. In fact, Ramona says here, when you say recycled machine, would a purchased used machine fall into the definition of recycled? And
would it? It's a good. It's answering a question with a question, but it's the right question.
Yeah, it is the right question. And I think based on what we've kind of concluded in our conversation so far, to me, my answer is yes, that would fall into the definition of the recycled product. Because the alternative is to put it in the trash to
exactly
dispose.
So if it could be reused again, that would be the case. I was also thinking, if someone were to list a machine on our platform and then change their mind, and actually, I'm not going to sell this machine any longer, we found a use for it within our own organization, does that even make it a recycled machine? Obviously, it's got to be treated correctly. And I was thinking about, if someone were to suggest that the product that you're purchasing was on a recycled machine, that would need to be backed up. So I was thinking, us as an independent media company in a marketplace, we know the equipment that's been forever. We never delete anything. We know all the equipment that's washed through the platform over the years, and we would be able to confirm that yes, this was listed on a reused marketplace, and therefore you can consider it that it has a second life, and therefore it's recycled. And we'd be quite happy we'd be able to, not endorse is not the right word, but we'd be able to evidence that that's the case, should it be challenged.
I think that's really, and I wonder so there's a couple other parts in here that I think kind of get my mind going and asking more questions too. But like David talked about here, bought an old school Mamaki DTG many years ago, the size of a Mini Cooper. I'll never buy used again, but repurposed I can get on board with because it sounds like some work has been done to it, right? So now you've got a whole nother, like, there's a lot of gray area in there, right? Because some dealers will renovate machines before they sell them on. Often that's not the case. And some manufacturers, when they sell a used machine, they will come with warranties, so that if they've definitely done some work on it. There's always a risk with buying anything secondhand, like a car, especially if it's an old Mini Cooper. That comes with risk. So it's working with reputable and trusted sellers, which I hope that we do. We do on PressXchange. We strive to do that. But there are some negative stories, but we don't hear them that often, to be fair. But we do hear them. It does happen.
I always tell people when they ask me about buying used equipment is, if you already know the equipment, if you're, let's go back to screen printing. If you are already a screen printer and you know what you're looking at when you're buying used equipment, by all means, buy the used equipment and repurpose that. If you are brand new to the technology, then I'm going to say you should buy new. And the reason being is because, is it you that's having the issue, or is it the equipment you bought that's having the issue? And if you're new, you don't understand the difference. And so again, I don't have any problem with buying used equipment as long as you have a good understanding of what you're buying. I had someone just probably 3 weeks ago talk to me about, people send me lists of things that they're about to buy, and I said, well, this exposure unit you want to buy, it looks like it will probably function and do what you want to do with it. But that company went out of business 25 years ago. And they're like, what? So
you mean the manufacturer of the machine?
The manufacturer went out of business 25 years prior. So it's a perfect example of, if you don't know what you're looking at, then maybe you should be a little more cautious. But if you do, like myself, when I bought that Precision Oval, I'd been screen printing already for 20 years, and I knew exactly. I used to work for Precision. I knew exactly what it was I needed and what I was looking at when I flew to South Carolina to watch the machine operate before I bought it.
Well, that's a really good point. So I can tell you that the vast majority of the users that come to PressXchange.com to seek a machine know exactly what they're looking for, because they recognize the need that they have. They know that they recognize the machine that they require to do that, but also their staff and their engineers understand that equipment and that they can run it just like you said. So that is not unusual to us.
Yeah.
And of course, we help manufacturers promote new equipment as well, because it's a circle of life. You know, you need to sell new ones to make sure that there's used machines in the market. And it was about the way it goes with us from our survey. About 60% of the printers that come to us are considering new machinery and used machinery. So we're just part of that buying cycle. And it's like, if you just treat yourself like a consumer looking for a car, you're going to buy a new car. But how many people also have a quick look at classifieds to see if there's a nearly new, or if there's a deal to be had? And it's just part of that buying journey. And it's a buying journey that takes quite a long time, of course, to invest in this sort of equipment. Yeah. So it's our job at PressXchange just to present that. But I can tell you, the people that come onto the platform, they know what they're looking for. And I think, Terry, it's because of that, because the machine they're going to run, new or used, they need to understand it. Otherwise, it's a whole new training regime and workflow that's got to change, and that's a big change a big change for a printer, and more costly than just purchasing a machine.
Sure. Well, Eric said in the comments here, in the embroidery market, used machinery is very common. Our shops regularly bought used, and those older machines did often enough head down to Mexico after their lives in the U.S. If a recycled, repurposed machine was looked over by a technician, that would be a huge selling point. So again, it's, what level, is it as is? Is there some warranty, but I think that's where, like in Terry's story there, that manufacturer is no longer there. The person that made that equipment is no longer available. So there is, you're the one that's going to be on the hook for fixing that. I want to get what Ramona said here too. Said, I agree with Terry completely. If you've never used the equipment you are looking at, understand there might be machine issues that you see as a user issue, or user issues that you think are machine problems. So yeah, that same thing. Wayne, I guess one other question here, staying in the same idea though, and I think the other part of what made this conversation so interesting to all of us was, we see what you're doing in the printing with that big iron. I mean, some of those initial purchases of that equipment is, $250,000 or more. I mean, that's not in
some cases.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And we don't see that quite as, not that there aren't equipment like that you can kind of get into, but I think one of the unique parts about a garment printing business is that you can be on a bit more of a shoestring budget and get started. Mm-hmm. Where do you see that kind of playing into all this, right? That, if I've only spent $5,000-$10,000 on something, I might feel like that's a little bit more disposable than if I've dropped $1 million on it, needing to find that. So that, and then the other side of it's the digital aspect of it. Now that more and more digital equipment's coming into the market, does that seem to be more disposable than, some of the big iron that you've talked about?
Well, I'll take the first question first.
Yeah.
About how recyclable is it? So on PressXchange, the big ticket items are the big presses, but the majority of the equipment that we have in terms of just volume, but wouldn't come to the same value. Wouldn't have the same dollar value.
Okay.
See what I did there? Dollar value.
Yeah, I did.
They wouldn't have the same dollar value. It's like the finishing equipment and the peripheral equipment. We have way more of those smaller pieces of equipment that do sell for a lot less than the actual presses do. And there's a big market for that. And there's a saying in the paper printing market, and it's probably the same in garments as well, that you can put ink on it, but it's not a product until it's been finished. So, we've got thousands of these pieces of equipment, and some of those will be very low value. So, the 5,000-10,000 mark that you're talking about, I presume that's new. When it comes to being resold, that still has a value. And it's our job as a marketplace is to just make that available to people. Yeah. And if they are out there now looking for it, then hopefully the two will come together. Yeah. But there may also, of course, be some concerns by the print shop selling it themselves, that they would have to deal with any after sales concerns and issues. Bought as sold is a relatively general thing. Bought as seen, is a general thing for anything that is used. And we have a status for the advert, whether it's in production or whether it's been dismantled, if it's in a container already or on the back of a truck. Those statuses are made aware. So it's dealers that tend to sell the majority of equipment so that they can provide the after sale support, which they do, and they can also guide the potential purchasers to make sure that it is the right piece of equipment for them. And so I was wondering, in this part of the market, are there dealers, or is it printer to print? Are they sold? We would call them private sales. That's what we call them. Is it sold privately between two printers? Like you mentioned, your listener mentioned that the machine would move down to Mexico. That's just one country down, right? Whereas on the other side of things, those machines can end up anywhere in the world. And of course, that has other costs to it to get it shipped across to, China, for example. Yeah.
Exactly. But I do think it's interesting when you talk about the finishing equipment and stuff like that. You brought up stalls earlier, right? So we've got the heat presses out there, and I think you can invest in a pretty nice heat press in the $2,000 range for garment printers that would work just fine. Yeah. But those do retain value. I know shops that have had their same heat press for 40 years and use it daily.
It's incredible.
Right? It is incredible, but I don't know, I think they just get that as that's just my piece of equipment. But I do think that this really, to me, shines a light on the fact that they should start creating that as part of their story, right? We're using the same piece of equipment because we want to bring value, and that's sustainable. We're not wasting by, changing out equipment and things like that. When it's not necessary.
And one presumes the quality is still just as good. Because it's the consumables that tends to, as long as you keep your consumables in tip-top shape, the equipment is the moving part. So if the quality is as good after all of that time, I think it's a great story for consumers. I do. Yeah. I think they would go for that at the minute, and increasingly more. I mean, at Printing United, how much green tech was there? Just specifically green tech for the part of the. Do you know?
I don't know.
Amanda might be able to tell us, but she's still hanging in there. But definitely something I saw regularly. I can think just walking my brain down the aisle, people talking about the sustainability aspect. I know I sat in on a news conference at Corneat, and there was a lot of conversation about that. There's a big piece of digital equipment right there. And I guess that's the other thing I want to kind of ask of you, Wayne. Sorry to go off script and take over here, Terry, but when we talk about this, right, as a manufacturer, I don't know how motivated they would be. Manufacturer, their job is to get another piece of equipment out into the world, right? So how do you balance that with in a partnership realm?
Different manufacturers work in different ways. Some manufacturers like to remove the equipment from the marketplace to support that part of the business model, and some manufacturers directly sell used equipment. So you have it's polarized, and it would be wrong for us to influence them on that. It's down to their business model. I know that here in the UK. Sorry to keep going back to used cars, just an easy analogy.
Yeah, well, perfect.
There was a cycle with the manufacturers of cars where they wouldn't get involved in used, but then the manufacturers started to reacquire the franchises because I don't know how true this is, but I heard it many times. So this is anecdotal, but they are making more money out of their used fleets than they are than they are the new cars. And the dealers that are selling the new vehicles make more money from a used vehicle than they do a new one. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. So I wonder if the industry is evolving toward that. And I wonder what conversations manufacturers have had in their boardrooms about used equipment, because their sales guys that are just focused on new equipment would see it as a risk to getting a new piece of equipment into the marketplace, and that is a genuine thing. But it's like I said earlier, it's the circle of life. There aren't used machines without new machines. Right. So we do a lot of support for manufacturers because our community are printers. They're looking to purchase equipment. They're looking to purchase equipment within the next calendar year. So they are in market. Unless you're a real nerd, you're not coming to PressXchange just to have a look. I mean, you guys probably sit on it all night long.
Yeah, that's kind of where I go. It just
nerding over the machines. But it's the machine that's on there today might not be on there tomorrow. So it's a marketplace, and transactions are taking place as we have this conversation now. So the people that come on are in the market. So it's down to us to make sure that the used equipment that they might be interested in is available to them. But at the same time, they are looking at the new technologies and solutions that are available from the manufacturers, because not only do they make machines that go on for 40 years, they're making machines that are doing new jobs and present new opportunities. So I think that it is evolving, but I would love to know in some organizations what conversations they have in their boardroom.
Yeah.
How many times have they thought, well, maybe we should, or maybe we shouldn't, or, I've just sold a new press to this printer, and they have one of our old ones, and we're taking that in, but it's really good nick, and with a little bit of a polish here and there, we could probably make that available to a customer that we lost last year who couldn't quite afford at the moment one of our new presses, but maybe they could afford this. Are they having that conversation in the boardrooms? And that's not for me. That's not for us. We're an independent media company. It's not for us to judge that. It's just a curiosity.
Yeah. Well, maybe we need to get Ross from Rock and Rich from M&R and some of these other guys around a table and say, yeah, just go ahead, have this conversation. We'll just listen in. We'll just be fly on the wall here. We're not judging, as Wayne said. We're just curious.
Well, I work with a company called Equipment Zone in New Jersey, even though I live in Arizona. I like to be at least 3 time zones away from my employer, but I don't know if they're listening or not. but a thing that Equipment Zone is in the middle of right now is a trade-in program. Equipment Zone sells Epson DTG equipment primarily, and doing a trade-in program with the thought of refurbishing those machines and donating them to high schools that have printing programs. Right. And I think that's probably an example of what you're talking about. But what are some other examples of something a distributor like Equipment Zone could do to work with you and do some type of a sustainability program?
Well, the donation point is interesting. I mean, that's a fun. Is it a charity then? Are they a charity?
Well, it would be a charity, but there are, here in the States, there are lots of high schools and colleges that have programs where they screen print, they do direct-to-garment printing, they do direct-to-film printing. There are special schools for kids on the spectrum where they learn a trade while they're in school. And so the thought was to contribute to that. And, obviously in the end, those same people are going to be out there working within the industry. And who knows, someday buy a piece of equipment that they worked on when they were in high school.
Of course. Wow. People don't like change, right? So you get used to. So from our point of view, working with organizations like that, for us, everything we have large databases where people do email marketing, we have banner ads, we have software, we have a CRM, but everything starts with listing a machine. So forget all of the stuff that we can do to generate revenue when working with our customers. Ultimately, it's about listing a machine, and I'd be interested to speak to them about making that equipment available so that if schools knew they could come and look at the library of machines that are available, they could come on and have a look at PressXchange. And I don't know how many schools in the US do it, but you were talking about it's education, yeah, to learn the trade. They're not just printing their merch.
Correct. Yeah, they set up like a regular shop would, and they use that as a teaching tool for the kids. And a lot of times it's around different. There's also some national organizations like Skills USA, DECA. I can't remember the names of all of them, but so they'll be participating in that. And the other interesting part is a lot of these schools will then fund this program by selling the merch.
Selling the merch. Good. Yeah. Okay. Well, I would love to talk to them to find out more, because we just bring people together. That's all we do, isn't it? It's all good media. Exactly. That's what we do. Yeah.
Cool. Well, besides what you're doing there, Terry, I know a couple of other folks that are pretty involved in, obviously, me running the sublimation competition at Skills USA. We'll put you in touch with some people, Wayne. I like this. Speaking of putting people in touch with each other, Tom jumped in there. Tom Riley said use screen printing equipment. He's got a link there for us. So Wayne introduced us to Tom.
Right.
Yep. And Tom is going to be joining us on the next Two Regular Guys show in 2 weeks from now. So
okay. So Tom, I'm going to give you a call, and you can educate me on that piece of equipment.
There you go.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Well, so as we kind of start to wrap things up here, Wayne, I want you to take out the crystal ball there and look ahead a little bit here. Because again, I think the other part that's interesting about all this is what does digital do to this conversation? I still a lot of questions about that. But I want to know from you, what do you see as kind of the future, the developments coming along in sustainability in the printing industry, and kind of across the board?
So I think from our point of view, we're seeing more parts being made available in the marketplace. So that's organizations, I think, are trying to run their presses for longer.
Okay.
And I don't know how interesting that is to the community. And we're having the conversations we're having around parts, which is about sustainability, has increased tenfold since just before COVID. So we're only talking in the last few years. And one of the guys in my team, Kim, who you met actually, she's been chewing our ears off about parts to do a better job with it in the marketplaces to make that more sustainable. So that's about the equipment being more sustainable. So I think that's what's going to happen, is that people are going to run this equipment for longer. So that, and then increasingly digital. I don't know if you want to come on to digital. We have the same questions about digital that you've got. It's a very complex piece of equipment, and my understanding is quite difficult to resell on to be used secondhand.
Yeah.
But again, those pieces of equipment are increasing in the marketplace as well. So more becoming available, of course, because more have been built, and they're being put into the marketplace. The deal that goes along with that, I couldn't comment on. We're not sure, because I know that often with the digital printing, it's not necessarily the equipment; it's the impression counts and the inks and the in paper, and the consumables that come with it, and that's where the contract is.
Yeah.
But one of those auctions that I talked to you about that we've had in the last couple of weeks were 2 digital garment presses from Cornet. Did you say that's what it was?
Yep. Cornet. Yep.
It was 2 Cornet. Sorry, it's 2 of those, and they're live. They're live now on PressXchange, and they're for sale. So someone is trying to sell those. As we speak. So it's curious. Yeah, but I think around sustainability, it's only going to become a bigger conversation.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine works in shipping, and he's joined. He's a very smart engineer, and he's joined an organisation where they've created. So I won't go into the detail because I don't know it completely, but micro bubbles underneath a ship's hull to make it move through the water more efficiently and save on fuel, which obviously cuts down on emissions. That's green tech. And for them, that's the sort of conversation that the shipping companies want to be having. So, how much more green tech is available to the printing industry that helps our printers create a more sustainable business model.
Yeah.
That, is attractive to their customers. And I think that's just going to increase even more.
Yeah.
Well, when we are running out of time, so how can our listeners learn more about what you're doing at PressXchange, and how can people reach out to you?
I think the easiest way is to go onto PressXchange.com, and you will see how it works. There are easy mechanisms to get in touch with us. If you've got a piece of equipment, there's a sell your machine button. And their site will take you through that. But we don't like to rely on e-commerce. We would love to hear from people. Just get in touch. And I've also made this podcast available on my own LinkedIn account. So linking in with me is another good thing. And if you've got questions for us, more specifically, we'd love to answer them, because I think we'd learn more at the same time in answering your questions.
Yeah. Well, you guys, Wayne and his team, we got to meet Kim, and I know that with her on the parts thing, it'll get done. So she's she gets after it. She's awesome. So I'm excited. And like you said, just reach out to them. These are amazing people, and you'll learn a lot just having a conversation with them. So, brilliant. All right, Wayne. Well, thank you so much for your time, and it's got to be happy hour by now.
Well, it is 4 minutes to 5, and I know that my friends are already in the pub.
Okay. All right. Well, we won't keep
they
you
are
any longer.
messaging me. Now, I don't want to leave this podcast, but as soon as I do, I'm going to the pub.
All right.
You can try that skeleton joke on them, but the second time
I'll have to listen back to it.
Yeah. You may want to skip that. Anyhow, thank you so much for your time, Wayne. This has been great. We're looking forward to the next time we get to chat.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend, everyone.
You as well. Awesome.
Wow, Terry. It's just so cool to think about, right? I mean, like the conversation around sustainability, it's happening regularly. But like he talked about, right? Like thinking about micro bubbles on a ship, right? I mean, we're just exploring new areas. What can we do to make sure that we're passing on a better earth to our kids, right? And the equipment is a part of that. There's energy, there's time, there's materials that go into making all this stuff. And so it's finding that balance between the technology that we need to run our business and the sustainability we need to keep our world going, So
well, yeah, and when we're telling the story of our business, hey, it can now be more than look at this all made apparel shirt that's made from 8 water bottles or whatever. Mel will,
which is awesome, right?
Mel will correct me on that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
but also on repurposed equipment, that didn't go into the landfill. We've rebuilt it, and we're not consuming new equipment. We are repurposing old equipment. I think that could be a part of people's story out there.
Yeah. And I think having a place like PressXchange is great because I think people are interested in that, but like I've had conversations with people and they're like, yeah, I have no idea where to even go. Oh, I've got a guy that does used equipment. It's like, okay. But if this guy is a guy and who knows, it's out of the van in the back, right? Send me cash first. And So anyhow. All right. Well, that was a great conversation, Terry. I'm super thankful to Wayne for spending some time with us, and hopefully he has a great time at the pub and has a pint for us. So we've got to wait a few hours for happy hour here. So
it's 10 a.m. here. So yeah. But I am on vacation this week. I did staycation. I've been working on my new book.
Oh boy, here we go. I love it. Hey, let's real quick. I know we've got secret sauce we want to get to, and we got a few other things to get to before we close out. Can we just run through the Reggies real quick, because I do want to get people voting on the Reggies. So go to tworegularguys.com/Reggies, and I'll just read through them all real quick if that's good, Terry.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first category is the Fresh Impact Product Awards. New products: Sawgrass Printmate, Pinch Perfect Tumbler Tool, Romeo and Juliet Caesar Cutters, 3D Puff Pro Tool, and the Epson F2270 DTG printer. The 2023 Customer Care Spotlight Awards. It's Customer Service Awards. So you got Michael Kaminsky of Sublimation 101, Pilar Harrison of the Rhinestone World, Vic Patel of Craft Express, Amanda Jordan from True Digital Artistry, Evan Gordon from Sawgrass, and Todd Downing from Fat Dad Custom Designs. The 2023 Industry Education Excellence Awards. You've got Michael Kaminsky from Sublimation 101, Lori Donovan with the Sawgrass Workshops, Nikki Ademkowitz with the Sassy Subber, myself, Aaron Montgomery with Our Success Group, Todd Downing with Fat Dad Custom Designs, and Matt Vassallo with the Rhinestone World. And then we have our 2023 Decorators Hub Trade Show Awards, Terry's favorite name, Applique Getaway, the Dax Tinley Park Show, the Impressions Expo Long Beach, Everything Embroidery Market, and the Pinners Conference. By the way, did you get a chance to pop in on that?
I did not make it over there.
Sorry.
Kim had tons of production to do, and we just never got out the door.
That's all right. That's good. All good. The next category is the 2023 Rising Star Awards. You've got Abby Carrillo with Craft Express, Adam Fuller with BJJ Hats. And so this is the under 40, by the way, category. And so Adam is 12, so he's got plenty of time to win this, but this could be the year, I feel like. Adrian Palmer with DTF.com, Amanda Jordan with True Digital Artistry, Ashley Dodd with Terry, you got it last time.
Terry? Sorry. I skipped to the end. Let's see.
That's okay. I'm not going to get the name right, so we'll just leave it. Ashley Dodd. Thank you, Ashley. And then Jelna Cass is the other person on that voting. The 2023 Women's Voice Awards. I got Megan Rodenhouse, Christine Shreve, Pilar Harrison, Adrian Palmer, and Martha Kaminsky. And then we've got the 2023 Two Regular Guys podcast Guest Star Awards, and Vic Patel, Jay Bissell, Eric Campbell, Jed Seifert, and Scott Fresner. Wayne will be eligible for the 2024 awards. So we'll start from there. 12. So. All right. And then the final category, kind of our best picture awards, so to speak, the 2023 Industry Ambassador Awards. You've got Lori Donovan, Matt Vassallo, Nikki Ademkowitz, Eric Campbell, Justin Lawrence, and Marvin Pearden. So make sure you head over to tworegularguys.com/Reggies and get your votes in. And so Terry, what's coming up for you? Have the big book of travels. Where's it taking you?
All right. Pardon me, gosh. My complete screen printing business course, I'll be at Workhorse Products in Phoenix on January 13th and 14th. My next class in Chicago with Atlas Screen Supply will be March 9th and 10th. And I'll be in the Equipment Zone booth in Long Beach for the Impressions Expo, January 19th through 21st. And all of my upcoming events you can find at terrycombs.com. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I've fortunately for the year, and I'm not looking ahead to next year yet. So the only major announcement that I've got is I just been really excited about the new OSG Live program that I've been able to participate with Tanya Doischer, my wife Kylene, and Becky Kotzer. The four of us, we've been labeled the Fab Four, so we're going to go with it. We get to explore the power of gratitude and celebrate wins. And then we've got 3 segments that we go through during the course of an hour-long program. And it happens every Wednesday morning over at liveosg.com. And we'll have, I think we're on episode 9 next week. So we're a little bit behind the Two Regular Guys, but we're working on it. And but it's bright and early, so join us if you can live. But otherwise, you can go back and watch all of the past episodes over at Live OSG. They're all there, and in fact, you can even catch the YouTube podcast version over there if you'd like. So, and then as far as Eric goes, I'll share for him here. He's got today coming up this afternoon the Take Up episode 175, expanding your embroidery toolbox. In this episode, Eric will talk about the year-end upgrades for digitizers and machine embroiderers that can enhance their work in the coming year. Thinking ahead to 2024. I love it. So head over to ericcampbell.com and click on the Take Up tab there at the top for all the episodes and join in live. It's always a great conversation. Even if you're not in embroidery, you can always get something out of it. And I think Eric's always got a great way of teaching. He's such a thorough teacher, and I love it. So again, go to ericcampbell.com and check that out. And then Eric will be teaching the embroidery technique toolkit workshop, and he'll be doing that together with Justin Armenta and Joe Kramer at the Impressions Expo in Long Beach, California, coming up not too distant future here. So if you want to learn how to break the rules, create elevated 3D puff embroidery, and captivate customers with specialty stitches, this is your class. I think getting those three guys together in a room is worth the price of admission just to soak in their knowledge. So it's going to be a good one. Join all three of them for the 3 back-to-back sessions, followed by digitizing office hours. And that's happening on January 18th out there at the Impressions Expo event in Long Beach, California. So there we go. That's everything. Now it is secret sauce time. I am
Who's
hungry.
pushing the button though? Is it you? Is it Eric?
Eric's going to do it. No, I think he's got it. He's. I've tried to push the button, and I think I mess him up more than I help. So we'll let Eric push the buttons and bring the secret sauce all at the same time. He's that good. So Eric, when you're ready.
All right, folks, it's time for the secret sauce. And today it's all about avoiding shiny object syndrome. And if you know what I'm talking about, I'm sure you've already had a problem with shiny objects at least one time in your career. Sometimes there's just stuff that we want to buy because we love it, because we love what we do. But we need to think about our purchases. And no, Terry, I'm not going to convince everybody not to buy. I'm just going to make them think about it first. The end of the year is fast approaching, and with it, the last chance for businesses to purchase before the books close for the tax season. As someone who is often approached for opinions on upgrades for embroidery equipment to electronics, I'd like to give you some guidelines that I follow when evaluating my Q4 upgrades. So if I can't purchase in any of the following categories, if I can't put that purchase there, it has to be considered a secondary to any that fit into these categories. So these are the things that I'm looking for. Something that alleviates pain points. The surest way to prove the value of purchase is to have already felt the pain of needing the product or service that you want to buy. If you're constantly slowing down production to deal with a malfunctioning machine, sending out work that's well within your skill set because you don't have a tool, or have continuous problems with keeping information together for your jobs, then buying a new machine, adding a tool, or subscribing to shop management software is a no-brainer. This also goes for purchases that will simply allow you to alleviate customer pain points related to the process of working with you. So once again, like online services, like any sort of upgrades that allow you to remove the friction of purchasing, I think also fall into this category. In short, if you have some sort of consistent complaint that a reasonable expenditure can greatly improve, that's not a shiny object anymore. The second kind of category I go for are things that create opportunity. If you have a known customer base that would purchase something from you, if you had the means to produce it, and that means somebody who's asked for a service, or you've identified this pool of potential buyers that you know how to reach, making purchases that allow you to serve them is a close second to addressing those pain points. Again, before you make the purchase, be sure that you can answer the ever important questions. Who will this serve? How will I market the new products or abilities? And what do I need to change and charge in order to make this worthwhile? So what do I change about my business, and what do I charge to make this worthwhile as an offering? Who on my staff, by the way, there's another one that people forget, who on my staff will handle the operation and administration of this new purchase? If you don't have someone to push the buttons, the thing will become a boat anchor. You need to know exactly who's going to be running it and how it's going to be marketed to really make this viable. Third category, things that enhance the experience for the customer or visibility. If you want to upgrade something that simply makes customer experiences better, from showroom fixtures to communication upgrades to online services, this is the category for your expenditure. Moreover, this catches any worthwhile purchase not directly related to working in the business. This can be anything that increases the estimation of your value in the eyes of the customer, including renovations to your shop or your customer-facing spaces, branding, signage, offline and offline or online presence upgrades, and the like. If a purchase will put you directly in front of more potential buyers or will greatly improve the experience of your current buyers, it could fit here. And lastly but not least, I just want to make sure you think about approaching this with total honesty. So whatever category you're going to put these purchases into, whatever you think you need to buy, know what you can safely spend, know your numbers, and secondly, when you strike upon that purchase that seems absolutely necessary at the moment, stop and run through these categories and ask the critical questions to make sure that your consideration fits within your real business plans. Honestly, if you're honest with yourself, if you're careful about what you're doing, the chances are you already know whether a purchase makes sense or not. And, that's my secret sauce. And I really hope it hits the spot.
Excellent points there.
Yummy. I'm full now.
but those are the things you need to do when you're thinking about expanding your business, and we're at that point where that's what people are thinking about. So good job, Eric.
Yeah, really good job, Eric. I love it. Great job. All right, Terry. Well, we've come to the close of another show. We want to thank Wayne Morgan and PressXchange, and just what a great conversation. And the fact that we remembered the starting part of our conversation in Atlanta, I think is what led us to this. So I'm grateful for that we didn't go too far, but it was awesome. And I love that, again, I love that we get to think about this at a deeper level. And I think that's what's so important, right? And that Wayne was willing to just ask questions and say, I just want to know. I just want to be curious. I think that's awesome. So we could all do a little bit more of that, I think.
A lot of food for thought today, I think.
Yeah, indeed. So good stuff.
All right.
And
we also want to thank Eric Campbell for keeping the production temperature low and not letting Aaron and myself burn the turkey each week.
Yeah. Wow, we're getting dad jokes at the end now too. I love it. Excuse me. Well, next week, speaking of turkeys, next week is Thanksgiving weekend. So we won't have show on Friday, Black Friday here in the United States. So, you can go stand in line at Walmart if that's what you choose to do with your Friday morning. But in 2 weeks, we have Tom Riley joining us, and he's going to be here to talk to us about buying new or used equipments and the pros and cons. So kind of a continuation of our conversation with Wayne here. And we appreciate Wayne introducing us to Tom, and may have been over a pint at the pub. So, another one of our types of people.
Exactly right.
Looking forward to talking to Tom in 2 weeks. But in the meantime, you guys just have a great Thanksgiving. Remember what you're grateful for all of our U.S. listeners and the listeners beyond. Just enjoy a time away here.
All right. Until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And that was the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/tworegularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/tworegularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, tworegularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.